But yeah, we might kick off today. So good afternoon, everyone. And thanks for joining us again. We are officially in week 3. We are over the halfway mark and we are heading towards Bantham Nam Chai, where we will arrive on the 30th of June, and it will be very exciting. The kids are super excited about us finishing virtually, of course. So today we're going to be starting the first leg of day 5 on our Thailand bike ride. And the best part about this day in Thailand is we get to visit the New Life Project and see the boys that we support through Hands. And there's an annual soccer game that's held, and it's typically the highlight of the year as the kids kick all of our butts in soccer. So it's definitely a highlight for many. So today I'm joined by Pete and a very good friend of ours, Mark Mathews, and they're going to have a chat to help you punch out those Ks. But before we do, let me tell you a little bit about Mark. So Mark has made a living achieving the unfathomable, crossing the intersection of danger and excitement. He knows all too well the crippling grasp of fear. While in Tasmania, 15 feet in front of a cliff in cold shark-infested waters, Mark hit a reef and instantly blacked out. Terror engulfed every inch of his being. Neck braced and hospital-ridden, he didn't know if he could ever surf again. At that moment, Mark made a decision never to allow fear to overpower him again. He has deconstructed, fine-tuned and personalised emotion and resilience techniques to successfully strengthen one's mindset and sustain long-term performance. These techniques have helped him win an unprecedented 3 consecutive Oakley Big Wave Awards and cement him as one of the best big wave surfers in the world. His powerful story was a huge hit at our Future of Leadership event back in 2018, and he has gone on to share this across many events and corporate groups beyond that. So I'm going to hand it over to Pete and Mark to have a chat. Over
hey, Mark, how are you travelling, mate?
I'm good, Pete. I'm way more relaxed than you are at the moment.
That's all right, mate. And so since COVID, a lot more time in the water and less time on planes for you, I'm assuming?
Yeah, well, I've got a 1-year-old, so maybe not a lot more time in the water because I've been daddy daycare since I've been home the whole time. So juggling being a dad, trying to get out into the surf as much as I can, and then trying to switch business from front of room face-to-face to this crazy new world of virtual, which has been challenging, but kind of pretty fun. At the same time, learning a whole bunch of different things in regards to live production and technology, which is it's actually quite exciting.
Cool, mate. You get to spend that time at home because you are on the road so much, traveling, and so there's always an upside of the negative, isn't it? And the negative is no travel, but the upside is get to spend time with your family.
Oh, it's been amazing. Like I feel so fortunate to have got to experience all these little moments that I know I would have missed out on. If I was working the way I was working last year before all this happened, I would have been away at least like 3 nights a week, traveling around the country or around the world. And then now knowing what I know, how special all these tiny little moments that I get to have every single day, I'm kind of hoping that I can switch my business model to maybe 50% virtual and do the rest face to face, and that way I won't have to go back to traveling too much, which will be awesome.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it looks next year and what clients are like and their appetite for continuing with the virtual, but we'll wait and see. But let's go back a few years for you surfing. So the early waves, time in the water was at Maroubra, yeah?
Yeah, I grew up in Maroubra Beach in the sort of southern eastern suburbs of Sydney. It's kind of renowned as a pretty rough, tough neighborhood, and I probably started surfing when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And my earliest, most vivid memories of surfing at Maroubra would be when I'd be sitting out in the surf at Maroubra, surrounded by all my friends, and then all the older surfers that I was kind of on one hand, I looked up to them, but at the same time, I was pretty scared of them. Like, they were scary looking blokes.
Yeah.
And my clearest memory of those days when I was sort of 9, 10, 11 years old was my mum paddling out on her boogie board in front of everyone to rescue me from the surf because I'd be too scared to paddle myself back to shore and it'd be getting dark. So that's kind of the clearest memory I have of childhood surfing at Maroubra Beach.
And Maroubra is certainly a different place now than what it was in the mid-'80s that you grew up there. Have you seen the real change? I know that you now live up at Coolangatta, but have you seen the change to what was a working class community in Maroubra? I don't think the house prices reflect working class anymore down there.
Not anymore. I saw the radical change in the years that I was living there. And in sort of 20 years, it went from, like you said, it was working class but a mixture of both, but working class and affordable for the working class. And then that just radically changed. And now it's like my generation, I've only got a handful of friends still living there and being able to bring up families in the suburb. Like, it's just completely not affordable unless you're multi-millionaire type thing, if you live in any sort of vicinity to the beach. And at the same time, that's what changed a lot of the surfing culture and the mixture of people, because they slowly started to move out the housing commission homes that were all front and center on the beach, which I mean, it gave the neighborhood such a good culture, good vibe. It was like unbelievably multicultural because there was people from all over the world, immigrants, everyone all in this one little hub, and so that all just love surfing. But that's slowly changed over the years, and not to say it's not still an amazing place, but it's a lot different than when I was growing up, definitely.
And do you remember your early days of surfing? You know, like it's I don't know, mate. Is it one of those things that you take on and you embrace, and there's no fear for everyone, or is it the case that you know? I remember surfing as a young bloke down at Coaldale, Coldcliff, Stanwell Tops, and it was I was always shitting myself, and just to paddle out to get beyond the break and feel like I was safe. Did you have that experience to start with, or were you just, you know, you found your place, you found your happy place?
It was a combination. I think surfing was definitely my happy place if the waves weren't too big. But as it got a little bit bigger when I was young, I always felt like the kid that was the most scared out of all my friends and my family friends that I used to go surfing with, which is usually a surprise to people when they watch footage of me, you know, now on what I've done in the surf over my career. But I don't know, like I'm not sure what different things make that happen. I think maybe like personality traits. I'm overly neurotic as far as the way my brain works. I can see everything that's going to go wrong, like a million different things that can go wrong in any different situations. And I think I'm hyper focused on that all the time. So I think that makes me more nervous and anxious about situations than a lot of people. But in saying that, I think I just loved surfing so much that it was just like the love for surfing outweighed the fear. And as you start to surf a little bit bigger and bigger waves, like there's a moment, regardless of what size waves you surf now, if it's 4 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot, if you surf a wave 2 or 3 feet bigger than anything you've ever surfed before, it's in the sport of surfing, that's the most addictive feeling that you can have in surfing. And I think I just got so addicted to that feeling that I just like slowly figured out ways to manage that neurotic side of my personality, keep it under control, not let the stress and the fear get the better of me, and still be able to push myself, and then eventually lucky enough to make a career out of it.
Yeah. I look forward to chatting about that. But before you took on the monster swells across the globe, there was an occasion where the family traveled to big wave surf at Waikiki, and you had experience there. Do you want to share that with our group?
Yeah, I mean, it was just like that first scenario of my mum having to rescue me, and it just, I think it highlighted how terrified of the ocean I was as a kid. And I basically gone to Hawaii and paddled out at Waikiki, which is the renowned tiny wave beginner surf spot in Hawaii. And I paddled out, and the waves were absolutely perfect for a little kid who's 10 years old. It doesn't get any better. But it kind of just out of the blue got a whole lot bigger than what it was when I paddled out. And at that point, it was like bigger than anything I'd surfed. And I got completely frozen out there as the sun was setting. It was getting dark. And I just had, it was one of the first more clear moments of panic that I've experienced, like a claustrophobic type feeling. And just in the midst of that panic attack, out of the blue comes my mum charging out in her boogie board to rescue me. So I'll ever be in debt to my mum for all the amazing things that she's done for me, on top of actually rescuing me from the surf when I was a little boy. But yeah, it's been an interesting ride to go from being that scared of the ocean as a kid to going out and surfing the biggest waves in the world.
And is it true, Mark, that that Devil's Point down in Tassie was a turning point for you professionally? Is it true that was where sponsors or others went, okay, there's something in this?
Yeah, that was the turning point of my professional surfing career, and also my psychology around what I was capable of in the ocean. Because at that time it would have been 2001. And at that time I had left school. I'd been out of school for a year and a half, almost 2 years. And I was kind of about to give up on the dream of professional surfing because I wasn't making any money. And
yeah,
I was working in bars and cafes down at Circular Quay. So just making coffees in the morning, cocktails at night. And out of the blue, I got a phone call from the editor of Track Surfing magazine, which at the time was the biggest publication in the sport of surfing. And the editor rung me up and said, Mark, we'd love for you to come on a photo shoot down to this wave in Tasmania. And I was like blown away that that he had rung me to invite me on this trip. And I found out actually down the track that he had actually rung about 40 other surfers before he got to my name, which was way down the bottom of the list. And what had happened is all the other surfers had declined going on the trip because they knew that they were being asked to go and surf a brand new wave down off the bottom of Tasmania on the southeast coast, which was called Shipstone's Bluff. And the rumors that had been circulating about this wave were kind of making it out to be one of the biggest, scariest waves that had ever been surfed. And but for me, I couldn't turn him down, because it was like, if I said no to the editor of Track Surfing magazine at that point in my life, I could kiss any chance of a professional surfing career goodbye. So I ended up going down there, and it just was kind of like a perfect storm of kind of motivation for me to push me outside of my comfort zone. The waves when we turned up were massive, bigger, scarier than anything I'd seen in my life, probably twice as scary as anything I'd surfed at that point in my life. And I didn't want to surf. I was just like, that it didn't look surfable. I was like, I'll die if I go out there and surf. And the photographers who were with us in the boat, they were just saying to us, oh, you got to get out there. It looks amazing. Like, it doesn't get any better than this. And I was just sitting in the boat, and I was like, mate, give me a camera and you get out there and surf it, and I'll take the photos from the boat here. I was just terrified. But I had a couple of other surfers with me, and at the time I didn't realize one of them was Kieran Perro, who I didn't know he was one of the best big wave surfers in the world. And he just jumped out of the boat and went to surf. And I was just like, man, if he can do it, I can do it. But I didn't know I was comparing myself to one of the best big wave surfers in the world at the time. And I just followed him out there. And at the time also in my life, I was living with my mum, and my mum in the months preceding that trip was actually really sick. And she had a condition that had her like bed bound and not able to work. And the doctors, she had seen lots of doctors, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. And it kind of hit me around that time that if she doesn't get better, it's going to be on me to take care of her. And I think that like just having that in the back of my head when I was down there surfing with this possibility of a surf career if I did a good job, if just having that on the back in the back of my mind, it just pushed me to surf waves that I never surfed before. And when I took off on that first big wave that day and got myself inside the like barreling part of the wave, the vision of what I saw, it looked like a computer game. And that just like it, I swear it altered my brain like in a split second to be like, I just want to see this for the rest of my life. And it just got me so addicted. And then the footage and the photos of the trip that time from Tasmania, they went all over the world into newspapers and magazines and on the TV. And off the back of that, I got my first ever surfing sponsorship. And the second was that the whole surfing industry thought of me as a big wave surfer, even though I didn't at all. But they were all like, "Oh yeah, you know that Mark Mathews, that big wave surfer," and I was just like, "What?" And I just figured, I may as well just keep running with it, and that's where it kind of took off from there.
Mate, it's so many collisions there of stories we've heard from other amazing people that we've shared their story with over the last couple of weeks. And, you know, no matter what their forte is they're always the last to call themselves the elite, or, you know, I'm an ultra runner, or I'm a big wave surfer. And, you know, I think it just speaks to the humility of those that we've had, including yourself, that you're not putting the tags on. It's the others that are doing it.
Mm-hmm. I think I think it's just because at the time when I started my career, you know, I never was the best. You know, I didn't grow up I was never that elite level where I was the Australian champion as a junior. Like I didn't even make it to the Australian team. Like I couldn't even get through the state titles, you know. So, and I think because of that, that's I've always the way I've sort of viewed myself within the surfing world. But the benefit of looking at my career like that and my performance level like that is that I've always focused on everything else I can do to make up for maybe a lack of talent or genetic gifts that I have, that there's better surfers out there than me, but what can I do that they're not doing to make me be able to outcompete them in the profession of surfing, you know? And for me, a big part of that was just surrounding myself with amazingly talented team, like the best filmers, the best photographers, the best water safety crew, managers, publicists, like went with amazingly talented individuals around me. I was always able to make myself more valuable to the sponsors out there than all the other surfers. And on top of that, being surrounded by really motivated, talented people, it just helped me maintain a level of motivation over a sustained period. And I think that's what made me successful in big wave surfing more than just my individual performance on any given swell. It was the ability to go to as like a big swell like twice a month for a period of 10 years and just still be able to do that and keep myself motivated and manage all the stress that goes along with that. Whereas other surfers could outperform me on the day, but then they wouldn't turn up the next swell because they'd be too tired or too worn out, whereas I'd turn up. And then the sort of accumulative value of what I was giving to sponsors was way more valuable than anyone else. And I think that's what made me so fascinated with the psychology around managing stress and anxiety and fear, and what can you can do to if you can manage that, then you can get whatever talent you have and you can use the maximum level of it. And I've always been fascinated with that, and I think that's what it was born out of.
Yeah, I want to come back to some of those points that you talk about there, and it's very clear, Mark, as to why you across to corporate and business, and the value that you're able to offer, and the lessons there around just having the great people around you. It doesn't matter whether you're, surfing the biggest waves on the planet, or this morning we were talking to Mike Tomalaris talking about the teams doing the Tour de France, and the teams that is needed behind those riders, and it's the same in business. It's around the team. But I'll come back to that. Before we move on from Shipstone, I think it'd be an injustice if you didn't share, just so people visualise this break that you're talking about, because it's not something you stand on the beach and just put your leg rope on and wander out into the swell, is it? It's a bit of a distance off the coast, isn't it?
That's very true. It's it's actually like it's in a really remote corner of Tasmania, and it comes out of really deep water and breaks onto a shallow reef that's kind of only feet from a cliff face, and the huge sheer cliff face that is actually shaped like the stern of a massive ship, and that's what gives it its name. And the water's freezing cold, and like I said, it's remote. There's no shortage of sharks down there, and some of the biggest swells on the planet Earth sort of get generated just out off that coastline and sent straight to the break. So it's got all the ingredients to be one of the biggest, scariest waves in the world. I can switch if you want. I can play a little bit of footage. I've got a 1 minute montage of surf footage, and there's a bunch of waves from all over Australia, but there's a whole bunch from Shipstones in there if you want me to play that.
I think that it might be what I put up on the Facebook group, but if you've got it there, if you can share your screen, let's see if it works.
Let's see if I can just get this.
Bridget's saying,
here we go.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I just need to I'll click on this computer back here, and it should play for you guys. Hopefully it's got audio. That one's Shipstone's Bluff.
Yeah, wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they're not the kind of waves you're getting off Manly on the weekends, are they, Mark?
A touch bigger than Manly. There is a big bommy out off Manly that was big just the other day. I don't know if you saw that swell. It's a little smaller than this, but still pretty big in its own right.
I love this footage of you inside the waves. And, when there's so much, but people want to follow you on Instagram and jump onto your website, and that the footage that you have is just fantastic. I guess it's one of the things, isn't it? The improvements in the miniaturization of cameras and the technology, and where back when you started, I guess there were guys out there that had things like suitcases the size taken into the water, and now you can capture that remarkable footage with something the size of your fist.
Oh man, it's absolutely insane. I mean, technology's been insane for everyone in everyone's industry. In surfing, for me, the change in cameras from that first trip to Tasmania, the photographers were shooting on film cameras, and it was like I could get the best wave of my life while the photographer was changing the film in his camera, and then it's like that wave never existed. and so it's gone from that to just the other day I shot with the latest GoPro camera that shoots virtual reality. Like it shoots full 360 and the camera's this big. And I almost, like, for a lot of trips, I don't need to bring a filmer or photographer with me. I just bring this tiny camera and I hold it on a tiny little pole just anywhere near me while I'm on the wave, and it shoots everything. And it's been insane to be able to give people a little perspective of what it looks like from my viewpoint within surfing. I always joke because I always use the footage to show my grandmother what she was always like, why do you do what you do? Like, you're just crazy. And I was like, I was able to show her some really cool footage. Like, see how good it looks. This is why I do it.
Yeah, well, just a plug there, Mark. The footage that you're seeing of the ride in Thailand, GoPro came on board and gave us the hardware in a sponsorship to allow us to record the actual ride. And
awesome.
It's what you're seeing is probably not the best, but that's more to do with the way that we've had to load it up and share it through Zoom and the capacities there. But the footage that we've got, as the 360, it's amazing.
Yeah, the part that is the Zoom interface to do things real time. I've learned all about that trying to deliver virtual talks to people. It's what you think is a live webcast when you see perfect quality footage on TV and stuff. That's about a 10-second delay, whereas Zoom is real time. So it hits that's what I found out. Footage of any high resolution hits a brick wall when it hits the Zoom platform to go virtual. So, but no, it does look amazing. It's like, I wouldn't mind being there.
It's just, it's the actual road that, this is the tour that we're on, and it just gives everyone a chance to, for the riders that have done the ride, you can ride down this and recognize it, but for others, it gives them an insight into the quality of the roads, the traffic and the scenery and so forth. So I want to, just before I leave Shipston and move on to few other things, there was a thing that you said that I don't know if it slipped past some of our viewers here, but it was something that was deeply concerning to me, Mark. You talk about the size of the waves, the swell, the depth, the cold, the sharks. But what I heard is that Mum wasn't on the shore with a boogie board to rescue you this time.
Not anymore. There was a period where I kind of started to feel really bad about telling my mum that I was going to surf big waves, because then she would just, for the whole 3 days that I was away, be absolutely terrified about what was going on. So I used to just sneak off and say that I was going somewhere else. I was going to stay at a friend's place, and then I'd come back and show her the photos when I got back. So it's I tried to keep her nerves intact.
Mark, again, talking this morning with Tomo, talking about the cyclists, we learned that there's cyclists who are made for sprinting, there's cyclists who are made for hill climbs, there are those who are part of the team as a domestique who are just there to work. And the uninitiated, you think, well, it's riding a bike, isn't it? And so the question for you from a surfing context is, you're a big wave surfer. What is it that stops those on the world tour from having a crack and competing? Is it a real different skill set? Is it mind? Is it overcoming fear? What is it that separates you guys?
I think there's a combination of things. It's definitely not a skill set. When I bring the best surfers in the world to surf big waves, like a Kelly Slater or a Mick Fanning, and they come and surf big waves with me, they're the best that I've ever seen do it. But it's just the psychology of going into such a scary environment and doing it month after month after month after month. I think that's the only difference. And then on top of that, the motivators are different also, because they have the opportunity to have a career competing on the World Championship Tour. Whereas for me, unfortunately, that wasn't available. I just didn't surf good enough to sort of be that top 10 in the world level competitive surfer. So then that changes motivations a little bit as well. But I think it's more to do with they're definitely good enough to do it. They're probably way more skilled and talented than most big wave surfers, but there's something about being able to want to do it month in, month out when you've got to face that much stress consistently over long periods of time. I think that's the only difference.
Yeah, sure. Mark, in your 20s, 2009, you win best of started three Oakley Big Wave awards. The first was 2009 biggest wave ridden. Give us an insight into how does that compare to what we just saw, and how is that classified and measured? Is it like, do you ring in the afternoon and go, boys, I just had this monster today, or is it part of in competition? How does this work?
It's interesting. So the competitions are, the surfers around the country are traveling around surfing huge waves, and then you get footage and photos of the waves that you've surfed. You send them in, and then they're judged. And then at the end of the year, whoever's wave is considered the biggest based on the footage or the photos wins. And I remember that swell really clearly because I learnt a valuable lesson when I was at this swell. I knew it was one of the biggest swells of the year, and I knew that there was the opportunity to go out and win biggest wave of the year. And that was at the forefront of my mind at the start of the day when I started surfing. But it was just it didn't lead to the right outcomes because I was so hyper focused and stressed about winning the biggest wave of the year that I just wasn't immersed in the conditions that I was dealing with. And my mind was all over the place, and I was getting overly frustrated and angry when I missed a big set. And there was just this moment that I had of like just clarity where I was like, I cannot believe I am out here in these amazing waves in the middle of the week while friends of mine are at home working, and I get to do this, and I am getting angry and frustrated about doing it, And to me, it was just like, as soon as I let go of the need to win that award and just like, I'm just going to enjoy the rest of this session and just surf, everything changed. My performance changed. The waves that I was picking changed. And then it would have been 2 hours after that switch, everything lined up, and I got a freakishly big wave that it was off the bottom of Western Australia, at a wave that breaks off Yallingup is the region, and it's called Cow Bommy is what the locals call the wave, and it just all aligned perfectly. And the other thing that went to my favor is that my filmer who was in a little boat way out in the ocean in massive seas was in the absolute perfect position to capture the wave at its peak. And that's a huge factor in the way the competition's judged, is how good the footage is to show the sheer size of the wave. And I was so lucky that this guy's name's Tim Benoith, and I feel like he is more psyched about capturing footage of waves than I am about surfing them. Like, he's that passionate.
Yeah, right.
And because of that, I ended up with this amazing footage and ended up winning that award. And it came at a great time in my career as far as my sponsorship contracts were up. So it was like I got to renegotiate on the back of winning biggest wave of the year, which is always a good place to come and negotiate from.
Yeah, for sure. And again, some great lessons for everyone in business or so forth is focus less on the outcome, but more on the moment and also enjoying the experience. And it's another question that I've posed to a lot of people we've chatted about is, being able, if they're running out through the mountains, whatever they're doing, is actually enjoying that moment in time. And as you say, the fact that they've got the privilege of doing that, because so many others haven't. 2010, Mark, our biggest slab award. Is that turning up at a barbecue with a massive slab on your shoulder? Or is there something different?
If only. No, a slab wave is basically a wave that comes out of really deep water and then breaks on a super shallow reef. So Shipstone's Bluff would be considered a slab wave, and it's all about the size and width and thickness and power of the barreling part of the wave that makes it called a slab. And it's kind of where you can go out and chase the tallest waves in the world. What I spent the majority of my career was, rather than doing that, I was chasing the biggest slab waves or the biggest barreling waves, because to me, the intrinsic feeling of getting inside the barreling part of a wave versus just going down the wave was just such a heightened sensation. And
Yeah.
that year I actually gave up because the biggest swells were hitting, same out of the Indian Ocean, coming to hit the Western Australia coastline. So they hit Cow Bommy and this other wave that's called the Right at the same time on the same day. So for me, it was a conscious choice to forego trying to win the biggest wave again and just go for the barreling waves, because I actually I wasn't really focused on winning that award. I just wanted to surf that wave, because to me intrinsically that felt better. And then the bonus was that end of that year I got that award, which was awesome too.
Yeah. 2011, you win the biggest wave again, and 2014, you and a mate Ryan set up the Red Bull Cape Fear event, and but things take a significant turn for you. 25th of October 2016, and as CT said, it was an accident, surfing accident that certainly redefined your life, and for a while there were a lot of things that hung in the balance.
Yeah, man, that was a tough one. In 2016, I was probably at the pinnacle of my surfing career, like as far as sponsorship dollars that I was earning, and off the back of winning 3 Oakley Big Wave Awards and running the Red Bull event and doing, I had a profile documentary that came out and won 2 AFI awards, like everything, like it was just picture perfect, couldn't be better. At the same time, I was kind of getting to the point where I was becoming complacent with dealing with the ocean, and I was becoming overconfident. I'd surfed so many big waves over this. There was a 7-year period where I didn't have an injury, and I was surfing monster waves, wiping out all the time and being absolutely fine. And I just became overconfident and completely complacent with how dangerous, what I was doing could be. And I was on a Red Bull shoot. We surfed a wave that breaks 3-4 hours down the south of southern coast of New South Wales. It was a slabbing wave. It wasn't particularly big. It was about 10 foot high, but it was a wave that again came out of deep water, and broke on a shallow reef. But the reef where this wave broke was about this deep. So it was like only inches before bare reef. And I ended up, I think it was the second wave of the session, getting smashed into the reef. And when I landed on the reef, luckily on my feet, but all my weight on one leg, and my knee completely dislocated under the weight of the wave that broke on my back and compressed me down into the reef. I dislocated my knee, and I remember rolling around underwater just in blinding pain. And trying to fight my way to the surface, but I was like, I couldn't let go of my knee because the pain was so bad. I ended up just getting to the surface and getting my first breath, and then I just saw stars and passed out because the pain was so bad. Luckily, my water safety team pulled me out of the water and got me to the safety of the beach, where they called for an ambulance. And I remember I woke up the next day in Canberra Hospital, which was the closest hospital, which is about 3 hours away. And I woke up the next morning and I didn't have a clear recollection of what had happened to me the day before. I just woke up in blinding pain. I was like, what have I done to myself? I remember looking down at my leg, and when I looked under my hospital bed sheet, holy shit, what I saw was horrific. I can actually show you. Wait, if you got a queasy stomach, you might not want to watch. Let me flick through this. Hold on, just give me 2 seconds. I've got a photo of it here. Oh yeah, so here, let me show you.
Just be careful if you've got a queasy stomach here. This is a bit heavy hitting.
If I flick to this, so this is the wave that I was on, that I wiped out on, and then so up in that top left-hand corner of the picture, under that white broken water, is the reef, and that's where I got smashed into the reef. And then I woke up in hospital, looked down at my leg, and this is what I saw.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly, mate.
So I'd completely dislocated my knee. I tore every ligament and tendon that holds your knee together, and the joint came apart. And while I was getting rolled around underwater, it tore the major artery and the major nerves in my leg. And so the surgeon comes into my room, who performed emergency surgery on the night before, and he comes up to me and he's like, "Look, Mark, we've got, some good news, but there's some bad news." He said to me, "The good news is we managed to save your leg." And I was like, "Shit, I didn't know it was that bad." And I was kind of over the moon when he told me that. I was like, "Whew, dodged a bullet there." But then he said, "Look, the bad news is that the nerves that run down through your knee that control your foot, there's so much damage to them that there was nothing they could do to fix it." And I had pins and needles from my knee down and couldn't move my foot at all. And he just said to me, "Look, you're never going to be able to move your foot again." And he's basically just told me that my surfing career was over, done, blink of an eye. One bad decision on a wave, just getting complacent, overconfident, and my career was over. I was just absolutely shattered. Like, I was going to set myself up for life with the way I was doing at that point in my surfing career, and it was gone. I kind of just spiraled down just into a bit of a hole of depression and sadness and anger and self-pity. And luckily something happened after about a month I was in hospital. I met a young guy. He texted me on, have we got time? I don't know. I don't want to.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, this young kid texted me when I was pretty much at my lowest point. And he wrote to me on Instagram, like a direct message. And he wrote, "Oh, Mark, I've seen what happened to you. I read about it on a surf media website. And I noticed that you're in Canberra Hospital." And he said, "Do you think it would be okay if I came up and met you and got a photo with you?" He said, "I've been watching your surf career ever since I was a little boy. I'd love to meet you." And I didn't even reply to him. I was just like, I put my phone aside. I didn't even have my close friends or family there. I was in such a bad mood about the situation I was in. It was only my wife who was actually with me at the time. She saw the message and wrote back to Jason and was like, yeah, no worries. Why don't you come up this afternoon? We'll get a photo and we'll hang out for the afternoon." I had no idea. And then a few hours later, Jason gets wheeled into my hospital bedroom by his brother. He's a complete quadriplegic. He had broken his neck snowboarding on the first trip of an around the world holiday, and just by slipping on the ice. Broken neck, quadriplegic. Anyway, Jason gets wheeled up to my hospital bedside, sticks his hand out as best as he can, like to shake my hand, big grin on his face. And man, from the moment that I shook his hand, everything changed for me in the blink of an eye. I went from being so angry, frustrated, depressed, just full of self-pity about the situation that I was trying to live through, to just feeling like the luckiest person on the planet. If I'd hit the reef any other way, I'd be dealing with what Jason was dealing with. And he was this kid who was like 19 years old, dealing with this situation that's not even comparable to what I was facing. And he was doing it so well. And that just snapped me out of it.
You made a commitment.
Yeah. From that point, I was just like, we stayed in contact, and he was so motivating to me. Every time I was in a bad spot, I'd just be like, man, I only have to think about what he was dealing with and overcoming. And I'd be like, it just would be like a kick up the ass for me. It's like, stop whinging about what you're dealing with. It can be worse. You can do, Jason would give anything to be dealing with what I was dealing with, and that mind frame for me made all the difference. And then eventually in 18 months, I got back to surfing and got to surf some waves. I've got footage. Do you have time to see it or?
Absolutely, mate. If people don't have time, they can bail, but we're recording it all so they can watch it later as well.
All right. Yeah, I've got this footage. This is the footage that I sent back to the surgeon. It was 18 months after I injured myself, after they told me I'd never surf again. told me my career was over. I sent this footage back to all the doctors that performed surgeries on me, and to Jason, who was like kind of motivating me to get back to surfing big waves. And there's a little bit of footage of the actual injury and stuff in here too.
Yeah,
So
cool.
let me share my screen and I'll show you that. One second.
Obviously a massive rehab process, Mark.
Crazy. And for a year, I didn't think I would surf. A whole year, I was like, surfing was not even in the forefront of my mind. This is the first time I actually went back in the ocean a year later. Still not thinking I would ever surf.
How's that rate up there with the best waves ever?
Best in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, so good. And Mark, Jason, he had a bit of a goal and a desire too, didn't he?
Yeah, I sent him the footage and he was all excited about seeing it. And then he was battling, like, for them doing their rehab. This is how hard it is. It's like you're doing, I don't know, 3 hours of rehab a day, every day, like tough. Like think about doing hard gym work or what you guys are doing right now, 3 hours. But he was doing it to get enough gains, like movement, just in his hand, so he could drink his own coffee or beer. Like because he couldn't hold his own cup and drink. He had to get his friend or his brother every time he wanted to sip a drink to like get them to hold it to his mouth. So it's like that, like the rehab to see that tiny amounts of gains is just so hard to stay motivated. So I found the World Adaptive Surf Games and I sent him this footage and I was like, this is what we've got to do. Like you got to do your rehab and then we'll be able to surf together one day and we'll go out with your brother and your best mates and we'll compete in this World Adaptive Surf Game. And he was over the moon when he saw that footage. It was just like, yes, like got him motivated again. But he showed his physios and the doctors and stuff, and they were just like, look, the people that you're watching in that footage have worse spinal cord damage than, or don't have as bad a spinal cord damage as you do. And so they were like, it's just not going to be possible for you to do what they're doing, because they had to they lay on the surfboard, prop themselves up with enough shoulder muscle control, and then steer the surfboard like that. And they just said to him, look, that most likely you won't be able to do that. And he was like kind of shattered about it. And I was just like, mate, come on, forget about the doctors and your physios. I promise you we can figure a way to surf. Anyway, he ended up coming up with me and we had a first surf here on the Gold Coast with his brother and his best mate out in front of my house here. And then I was lucky enough, I raised enough money doing public speaking work to be able to hire out the Melbourne wave pool, the brand new wave pool that they built. So they've built this wave pool that shoots out the most perfect waves you've ever seen. And I was like, I made enough money to hire the whole thing out to bring his brother and his family and a couple other disabled surfers for them to have a surf session. It was like one of the best surfs I've ever been to. And I'll show you that footage. And then, and at the end of the clip, there's actually footage of me. It's kind of, he was so motivated watching him be so excited to surf. So I kept pushing myself, even though I wasn't surfing good enough to surf big waves again. That footage that you just saw was at like 30% of my ability level before I hurt myself. Like my foot still doesn't work. I have zero stabilizer muscles in my ankle. Like there's no balance there. But just over time, I just started to learn to surf with the injury, and my ability level just going up and up and up and up a little bit, you know, and I got to probably 60%. And I figured like 60% may be just enough. And I thought I'd go and test it. So I went back down to Shipstone's Bluff in Tasmania for a big swell. And man, my leg held up better than anything I could have dreamt of. So at the first start of this clip's Jason and us surfing together, and then the ends like a wave that I rode down in Shipstones. It would have been at the end, just at the end of last year. I'll put that on to finish us off. I know I'm taking up heaps of your time. Hold on.
Oh, that's great.
I love it.
There we go. Well, you got to understand how scary it is for Jason to go surfing. If he falls face down any time, he has to wait face down in the water for us to get to him. So it's terrifying. Yeah. But look at him, the legends.
You go all right in the background there, Mark. You might have a future in this.
Look at that knee getting better and better.
Yeah.
So good.
I sent this footage right here to Red Bull at the end of last year, and it's kind of enough to persuade them that I could surf big waves again, and they've just re-signed me for another 2 years. So kind of got my big wave surfing career back on track.
It was just a break for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. It's been in hiatus.
Wow.
Well, mate, while the surfing's been in, the big wave surfing's been in hiatus, you've been speaking across the globe and sharing your messages and so much around overcoming fear, resilience, limitations, and there's so much more I'd love to talk to you about, that we have run out of time, or more to the point, I need to stop riding. And
doing a couple of extra Ks there, mate.
Mate, you're an incredibly generous person with your time, and we've seen that off stage and personally as well, when you've reached out and helped one of our little mates who had a surfing accident. And I say it every opportunity I get. I go to a lot of conferences, I see a lot of speakers, and no one comes close to you as a storyteller and the value that audiences take. And mate, may you continue to surf those big waves and share your story, because it's a story that needs to be heard, and we all take so much from it. So thanks, mate, for carving out some time today. We love what you do, how you do it, and all you're about. So good on you, mate.
Mate, thanks so much. It means a lot to have a speaker of your caliber say that I'm all right on stage. So it definitely means a lot. Thanks. And it was a pleasure being with you all. And you guys are doing amazing stuff. So it's easy for me to give up any time for such an awesome cause.
Thanks, mate.
Awesome work. I tear up so much when I see your footage, and you know, especially the story about Jason. It's beautiful, just how much you can change your perspective from one small moment. So thank you for sharing. And yeah, like, you know, as I said, just that footage at the end there with Jason was just beautiful. So that's a wrap for today, team. You've probably done a few more Ks, but I think I don't think we lost anyone there. I think everyone stayed on to hear and see the amazing story. So thanks, Mark, for giving up your time, and the team will go away now, log their Ks. So they'll put their Ks onto my virtual mission. We'll keep traveling down the coast of Thailand. And if you do want to revisit this interview, it'll be available on the YouTube channel. So just jump on there in the next day or so and we'll have that up and ready for you. And tomorrow afternoon, we're going to be joined by another amazing human on stage, Julie Cross. So she has, she's a beautiful person inside and out, has an amazing story, and loves to talk a lot and fast. So you'll be able to punch out those Ks on the bike with Julie tomorrow. Until then, thanks, Mark. Thanks, Pete. And we'll see you all again tomorrow.
See you all.
See you all.
Buddy Cup.
Good luck with it.
See you.